Yes, reggae fans, this is Fully Full Word, and you're tuning in to the top ranking podcast sound, best sound in the world, so don't disappoint me.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Top Rankin' Reggae Podcast. It's the show where you get to hear the stories behind the songs. My name is Glenn Holdaway, and I'll be your host. And today we are joined by keyboard player, producer, and clothing designer Luis Tovar, aka Luis Dreadlocks. Some of you may know him for his role as the keyboardist in one of California's most prominent reggae bands, Iya Terra. Some of you may know him from his clothing brand, Aspekt Apparel. And some of you may know him from his musical productions with Aspekt Mafia and corresponding record label, Aspekt Records. Regardless of how you may know him, one thing you can be assured of is any project Luis is involved in will be defined by the quality and unrelenting attention to detail that he puts into everything that he does. Some of Luis's career highlights include touring all over the United States multiple times over, playing packed shows at incredible venues like Red Rocks, The Bowl at Cali Roots, and countless others. He's also toured internationally in countries like France, Switzerland, and Canada. His music with Iya Terra has garnered millions of streams on Spotify, and their unique style of metal reggae fusion has accrued a massive and loyal fan base. More recently, Luis has ventured into the fashion world with the launch of his clothing brand Aspekt Apparel, and is also making a name for himself as a producer by partnering with Iya Terra bassist Nick Laporcio to form the production duo Aspekt Mafia. Aspekt Mafia's recent release, Who God Bless, is an anthemic banger featuring Italian superstars Mellow Mood, Lion D, Kagimon, and Forlock. Aspekt Mafia has huge plans for the future, so definitely keep an eye on them for upcoming releases. So, with all that being said, I think it's time. Without further ado, I bring to you my interview with Luis Tovar.
1, 2.
All right, dude. Yeah. Thank you for coming down here today, Luis. How was Jamaica, bro?
It was a vibe, a super big vibe. We got to go to Rebel Salute.
Yeah, man.
That was awesome. It's the first all Jamaican reggae festival that I've ever been to, and obviously in Jamaica, got to see some artists that don't really make it to the States. And yeah, it was like going to Reggae University in a nutshell.
Yeah, dude, I actually got to go there back in 2016. And dude, did people have the air horns and stuff?
I bought one of those.
Oh, you did?
You had to.
Yeah.
You had, yeah. It was just, yeah, I should have brought it with me, man.
Dude, I never really whenever something cool happens,
people don't really scream out there. They use the horn.
Straight up
it's
horn.
the horn, and it's a vibe. You feel that energy.
Yeah.
People are so stoked to use their horn, man. It's a language, man. The horn is a vital piece of communicating. So it's yeah, pull up. People show their excitement with the horn, dude. It's a vibe.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Were there any other notable experiences you had in Jamaica, either this time or your last trip, or things that you took away or learned, or maybe changed your perspective on reggae music?
Oh man, every time, we've been out there twice now, and every time you go out there, you gain something new, perspective wise, and I feel that's the biggest thing that you kind of gain from it. Obviously the food and the music and the culture is awesome, but the change of perspective is something that you don't get out of just watching YouTube videos. To actually put yourself there.
Well, sick, man. Well, I'm glad that you had a nice trip out there, and yeah, and thanks for sharing some of those gems, dude. But yeah, I kind of wanted to from here maybe get into your background a little bit and kind of go into your whole musical journey and how you got to where you are today. I mean, I know you from Iya Terra, and now you're starting to produce your own stuff and venture off into that. But yeah, where did it all begin? I know you're from Vegas, but what was your upbringing like, and how did you fall in love with music?
Well, music was like my way of being able to relate to like American kids, because like my parents were immigrants or are immigrants.
Or
I guess.
from where originally?
Mexico.
Okay, nice.
So like I'm first generation born here in the U.S. So my first language was Spanish.
Wow.
So like music was like a way for, I mean, if anything, it kind of helped me learn English.
Like in school, like did you go to school not being able to speak English at first, and then
at
like,
one
picking
point,
it up?
yeah.
Wow. Like what was that like? Did you kind of feel like I'd imagine you probably felt like really kind of like isolated, not being able to communicate or understand like what was happening, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't until like maybe like third grade, like maybe even fourth grade. But yeah, like up until maybe like by fourth grade, I was like good, like, but still kind of like fresh into like the English stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, cause yeah, I remember just like being in like the ELL classes, you know, the English learning classes and stuff. So yeah, I can like have memories of that stuff where I'm like, and now looking back on it, like I'm just like, damn, these things are so like not dumb, but like it's I mean it helped, you know, for sure, but it was just so dumb, boring to like learn English that way. Like
what kind of stuff would they have you do? Like how did you learn?
Just like a word that I would remember, like it being not making sense to me as a person that didn't know English, was like the word dull.
Dull?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the knife is dull.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I understand sharp. You know, like as a person that doesn't speak English, sharp was an easier word for me to understand. Like sharp is gonna cut you, but dull, I was like, what is dull? You know, like what is,
yeah.
There's certain words that would just like not make sense to me, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Sorry, I don't know if this is a
no, you can curse. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There was just, it made me feel dumb. Those classes, you know what I mean?
Made you feel dull.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just weird to like feel like I was like, I'm like going to school with everyone else, but certain classes I was
like everyone was kind of like you like more advanced in certain classes and then you had to take other classes where like
like there were certain periods where it's like, okay, the ELL kids have to go do this like seminar and like take these like but I mean, I don't know, it's all part of the journey, I guess.
Like how did that affect you and like your like I don't know, I guess like feelings about yourself? Like was that kind of a difficult thing to cope with, or did you like kind of like adjust to that pretty quickly?
Well, that's why music like helped, because like with like learning at least like the songs and what they're saying and stuff, whether I'd understood what their words were or not, the fact that I could like relate to other kids based off of like what band shirts they're wearing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, all right, maybe I can vibe with you, you know?
Yeah.
Like I might not completely understand, or we might not be able to like completely have a conversation, but like, you know, we're on the same like wavelength as far as like what we're listening to.
Yeah, like so. What were some of those bands at the time that you were into or that like spoke to you?
I mean, from like my earliest ages, I would say like Michael Jackson, dude.
Yeah, man. Nice.
Michael Jackson was like it.
Yeah.
And then after that, like I probably got into like more punk stuff.
Sick.
And then like got into like metal and like super heavy stuff. I mean, there's probably like some rap. I probably had like an Eminem record here and there.
Yeah.
But I was very diverse, man, with the music I was listening to. Like, it was just, it was all,
wow.
It was all over the place for sure.
What was like the first instrument you ever played, and like how did you kind of pick it up?
Well, the first instrument that I played was probably like the Glockenspiel.
Oh, nice.
The bells.
Yeah. Was that like in school, or like where'd you get a Glockenspiel?
Yeah. It was in school. It was probably like 6th grade when I joined band.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Why'd you pick Glockenspiel?
Well, I wanted to play drums.
Oh. They're like, well, we have a Glockenspiel.
They're like, all right, well, you're gonna go in the percussion.
Okay, yeah.
And so I mean, that taught me how to read scales and music and
sick.
stuff.
Do you still remember how to like read music, or do you ever like use that kind of skill?
I mean, I remember, EAD, or I know what the
Like every good boy does fine.
Yeah, or FACE, but I mean, as far from that's probably as far as it goes for me.
Nice.
Like, I mean, at one point, yes, like we studied that, but yeah.
So how did you transition? Like, okay, so you wanted to play the drums, but you ended up on Glockenspiel, which has like notes, and it's kind of similar to a piano. Like, is that what made you transition to keyboard? Like where did you go from Glockenspiel?
Well, from Glockenspiel went to, well, okay, so that's like really where it starts, like 6th grade, and then like once I got into high school, I did marching band.
Oh, sick! Yeah, I was in marching band too.
Hell yeah!
Wait, what did you march?
So when I started in marching band, because I had mallets down, I was in the pit.
Yeah, nice.
So I was in pit for like the first year, but I still wanted to play drums.
And for those listening who might not be familiar with the nuances of marching band, like, so you've got the band and the drum line, which are like marching around on the field, and the pit are like the people in the front who don't march around. They play like stationary instruments like a glockenspiel or vibraphone or like other
Concert
percussion
bass
instruments. Yeah. Even like keyboard. There's some people.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was the first, I think that was my freshman year, and I really wanted to do drumline. So the sophomore year and on, I did, I think it was like third bass.
Sick.
Yeah, I marched bass.
Nice.
So
I just did drumline for a while too, like snare drum.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. All the rudiments and stuff. Like
yeah,
I was super into it.
But I mean, that's like really like what let me understand more like rhythms and stuff, especially like in the bass line. Like you're splitting a bass line with like 4 other people, so you only have certain notes that you're supposed to hit to make it.
So like again, like the marching band nuances now. So there's like usually 5 bass drums of different sizes. Bass 1's the smallest, bass 2 is bigger, bass 5 is like the giant one. So usually you have like the big giant kid where they stick him on bass 5 because he can carry it's like 40 pounds. But so basically like a bass drum part would be like doot 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 doot, and like each bass drum like might hit one note like do do do, so you get these ripples like brrr, brrr, if you get like super syncopated. So it's like everything, like you might have a really subdivided part, like one person is like on the 1, the other person's on the and, the other person's on like one enda, and that's like how you have a super sick bass line or bass drum line. So so
that incorporate the choreography with it too?
They get to march around.
Oh my
and
god, man.
Yeah. People underestimate marching band. They're like,
times.
oh dude. Man.
Yep.
Did you do it like all 4 years?
No, senior year I didn't do that. That's when I was like getting into more like just jamming with people and bands and stuff. But
were you playing drums in the band, or like what were you playing?
No, I was doing synthesizers and like keyboards and stuff. But yeah, like in marching band, that's like really kind of where I met like just other people that were just super into music. You know?
Yeah.
So
like what kind of bands were like the early kind of garage bands you were jamming with at the time?
Well, it was like definitely like probably more metal stuff. Yeah. In those days.
So how does like metal synthesizer work? Like, I don't know if that's like an ignorant question, but like I don't know if I've ever seen a metal band with like a keyboard player or like a synth.
Have you heard of Dream Theater?
Oh yeah. So like it's more like prog, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's usually the more proggy ones. Okay. I mean, Dream Theater is like probably like goated for sure.
Yeah.
But there's like Children of Bodom who had a gnarly keyboardist, and they were more like in the death metal world probably. But yeah, there's some good metal keyboardists out there that was just like, it was almost very symphonic, very like orchestral sounding sounds and riffs. But yeah.
Were you like classically trained at all on piano or like?
No.
Okay.
No.
Like, how did you learn piano? Like, did you just take like what you knew from Glockenspiel and kind of like?
Yeah. Well, with that stuff, it was more kind of just playing like leads, cool like ambiance and strings and stuff, kind of like make it cinematic. while the guys are riffing and like drums are going.
Yeah,
screaming vocals and things.
That's so interesting because I could kind of see how like from that early age, like maybe that's like what gave you like what makes you a great producer today, because like what you were doing before maybe wasn't like the most like technical stuff, but it's all about like feel and adding to that vibe. And I feel like I've noticed that in your productions, like you choose like really good sounds and like you're able to like make a really cool vibe with what you do.
Thanks.
So yeah, like I wonder if that's kind of like where the root of that is.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know where I heard this or like where it like kind of just hit me, but I mean, you kind of just got to go with your strengths, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to beat myself up over not being like a prestigious like Berkeley musician, you know? But yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I kind of just go with my gut with what I think sounds good and what I can do.
Yeah.
With playing with bands, I've learned to like, you know, there's each person has their space in the sonics of the sound, you know, and not to like let people have, it's like a conversation. You let people talk when it's their turn to talk, or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Duh, man. That's sick. So after high school, like your first metal band, or maybe not first metal band, but like the first band that I was kind of like aware that you were like really starting to do stuff with, like Aurora.
Mm-hmm.
Like how did that come about?
Well, me and
Nathan, the singer of Iya Terra, yeah.
Yep. We were jamming in a band prior to that, and then that band dissolved. And then, Aurora.
And how old were you, like approximately? Like
I was probably like
time?
15.
Oh, wow.
I think Nate was 13.
What?
I think so, yeah.
Wow, dude.
Somewhere in there, yeah, or like 16 and 14.
Wow, I had no idea you guys went back that far and have been playing music together that long.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, dude, we were some rowdy kids.
He was 13. Fuck, man. That's crazy.
But yeah, so once that band dissolved, and then like Aurora didn't start till like maybe in later, like once we were like in high school or coming out of high school, you know? Yeah. So we were trying to like do it more seriously. We were getting some like pretty good gigs and stuff. But like, I don't know, like it kind of like, we had this like showcase with this one label that we super looked up to, and it was kind of like a harsh reality check when you go there, because to me, I mean, like the music was good, but then like it's not just the music, you have to have like the whole like product.
Sure, yeah. And by that you mean like your stage persona, or like your branding in general? Like,
yeah, like the brand. Like, yeah, you can be a band with good music, but the brand wasn't like,
I see,
really like solidified for a label to want to like
what does it mean to be like a fan of Aurora? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah, like we kind of like had an idea of how we wanted it to be, but as far as like making it something marketable or something more of a business than it is a band. Yeah, I mean, we were honestly just doing it just to like play cool music with each other. You know what I mean? So like that label showcase that we had was that was brought to us by a friend, which is like super sick. Like that they even like linked that up for us.
Yeah,
because we're like, again, like at this point we're probably like 17, 18, 19 years old, and our friend like linked us up like, hey, we got you guys this showcase in LA, and like,
wow, so you guys came all the way from Vegas to do a showcase in LA?
Yeah, like the label got like this like a rehearsal spot and had us do a set in front of them. It was like pretty crazy, dude, to just like, because the label that like did that, yeah, we looked up to them, and like the bands that they had on their roster, we were like, damn, we're about to like play for these guys. But so yeah, we piled all our stuff into our friend's pickup truck. Excuse me. And like as soon as we get to LA and get to this rehearsal spot, we're like grungy, like we didn't like
you got there the same day?
Yeah.
Oh,
We didn't like really clean up.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't really that presentable. We just got out of the car and like started setting up and like, all right guys, here we are. And
yeah.
so yeah. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that we kind of just learned along the way as to like if you want to be on a label, what they look for, but then even if you want to be on a label, but just like, yeah, it's not just the music. You have to like really like have a finished product of where there's no ambiguity. It's just like, this is what it is,
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Wow. That's really interesting to hear that like you had that experience so early on and like that was such a like formative experience for you guys. Like,
Bro, that showcase crushed our soul, man.
Oh, no. What did they say?
It was brutal.
Was it like, man, Simon Cowell like just shitting on you guys? Like,
in a nutshell.
Oh man.
Like, in a nutshell, like the band was good, but this and that, and I don't even want to say it. But
yeah.
It was but like again, like for that to even come up, it's like, because when you're a kid like that, you're just like, dude, I hope we get signed. But then you don't really know what that really means.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't, it's like, yeah, you can't really like, yeah, you can probably listen to podcasts like this and like now know, but for us, yeah, we just experienced it like, head first. So
yeah,
as to what it is, but I don't know. It's all happens how it's supposed to, I suppose.
Yeah, man. Well, certainly a learning experience. So like from there, how long did Aurora continue for, and like what ended up happening with that project?
Well, after that, that eventually dissolved. Nate moved to LA. He met Porch through Craigslist.
Yeah.
And they were like jamming. Porch was going to UCLA at the time. And they were just like jamming at his dorm, writing songs and stuff.
Yeah, and Porch is the bass player of Iya Terra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
And after them jamming for a bit, Nate just hit me up and was like, "Hey, you should come out and jam." Like, it wasn't even like you want to join the band or anything. It was just like, because again, like,
yeah,
we're still just like kind of wanting to, like, yeah, we're wanting to do this, but then it was more so just for me. I just wanted a reason to come out to LA because I was in Vegas still, so it was kind of an excuse for me to just come out, and like play music out in LA and California, and yeah.
How did you guys like flip the switch to reggae? Like, was that like a conscious choice where it's like, we're gonna be a reggae band? Because Aurora was like a metal band, and it seems like a pretty like almost like a 180.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because we're in a metal band, but so at mine and Nathan's apartment in Vegas when he still lived there, it's like we'd have rehearsals and do our shows and stuff, but then once we're back at our pad, we'd be playing like Sublime,
nice.
And Tribal Seeds, Revolution, smoking weed, and you know what I mean. So we're like doing all the metal stuff like on shows and like rehearsals, and then like you go back home and like we're just it was like reggae playing at our house. Like,
so that was always kind of like in the background.
Yeah, and then Nathan really loved the Expendables, still does.
Oh,
but
nice.
Yeah, Expendables was one of those bands that that was always there, like bumping in our apartment.
That's funny. I like now that you say it, I can like hear that in some of his songwriting and like his style. That's funny. I never put that together.
But yeah, that's like, and then man, at one point though too, I remember seeing. It was Revolution. Yeah, it was. It was Revolution opening for the Expendables.
Oh, wow.
I remember that show, and Eric was like having a hard time with his pedals, and he seemed like a little off, like he was having like, cable issues or something. And I was just like, dude, you guys are so sick. Like in my head, I'm like, damn. And then like obviously time goes on, and they went where they did.
Yeah.
But it was just very inspiring to see that though too. So I was. yeah, it kind of just that opened for me like the reggae rabbit hole to see like, okay, there's people here in the States like doing this sound. And I'm like, what's to it, you know?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's cool, like you said, to see Revolution like start off so early on, and yeah, like having to deal with the shows that we've all had to deal with, you know, and like grinding and things not always going well, and then like seeing where they've made it now. Like I'm sure that was like really inspiring too, as like someone who is like trying to grind and like do that same thing, you know. So.
Yeah, most definitely. And Tribal Seeds too, we're huge fans, and yeah, I mean, when we weren't going to metal shows, we were going to reggae shows.
Sick.
So, but yeah, so I mean, when I was coming out to California to jam, it was a few like original songs. I think they might have had the EP out by then. Maybe not. I'm not sure. I wasn't on the EP.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when I would come out, we were just jamming covers and just jamming to jam, you know?
I think I've seen some like early videos of you singing like with Iya Terra. Yeah, like
yeah.
Were you like the lead singer at first, or was it Nathan?
No, it was Nate, but
okay.
I mean, I would do covers.
Nice.
Just for fun.
Yeah, you sound good. I never even knew that you like sang lead until I saw those videos kind of recently. I was like,
oh,
what?
Thanks.
Yeah.
There was one I was doing like Wicked Rebel by Slightly Stupid.
Sick.
I remember that was a fun one to play. But yeah.
Nice, man.
Yeah, man. Some good times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my first gig with them was the Summer Meltdown show. That's when I was like,
oh yeah, it was like Uplift, right?
No, Summer Meltdown was in Santa Clarita.
Okay.
Put on by Brett Lieberman.
Okay.
It was the Yes I Can. It was a Yes I Can autism charity event.
Yeah. I think I remember seeing like flyers for that. Was it at like a skate park?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
So that was like one of the first. It was the first gig that I had with the band.
And like, what year is this? Like 2015?
2014.
14.
I think.
Nice.
Wow, it's about 10 years ago.
Yeah,
crazy.
Man. Damn.
But yeah, that was like the first gig that I was just like, oh wow, and like I look at the flyer and it's like Modest Yahoo, Stick Figure,
yeah,
like all these bands, Expendables probably, that we were listening to that we never thought like, okay, we're on the bill together, like what is this? So yeah, that really got me hyped, and then after that, it just kind of started becoming a little bit more real, like
yeah.
After yeah,
like you guys are like in the scene now, like with these bands on the same lineup. It's like
still opening. We opened that event, but like yeah,
it's like a foot in the door though, for sure, man. Like,
yeah. Brett Lieberman really helped us out with that, and a few other gigs too, like when we were starting out. So
sick. Well, dude, yeah. Like speaking of Iya Terra, like. I mean, yeah, you spent 10 years building that band up, and like just from my own perspective, like you guys are like literally the first band that I personally know who, like when I met you guys initially, you were like you said, like an opening the day like bar band basically, and then like as the years went on, like I saw you guys like moving up and like eventually becoming like an internationally touring like superstar band with like millions of streams, like tons of fans, like people, and like the fans that love Iya Terra like love Iya Terra. Like you guys like did it, like I don't know how to put it, but like you guys like and for me to sit there and see that, it's like, dude, I remember when these guys were like playing at these bars, like what the hell, like I just want to say that I found that like really, really inspiring, and probably how you feel about seeing Eric from Revolution like at that show so long ago, like with his guitar pedals all fucked up, like and now like where they're at, that's kind of like the same feeling that I have like seeing you and like how far you've taken it, from like those humble beginnings.
Thanks.
So yeah, dude, but yeah, like I'd love to hear kind of like what that experience was like, grinding and coming up as like a local band and like eventually becoming like a touring act and like growing it to where it did, and like some of the highs and lows and like lessons you guys learned and all that kind of stuff. I
mean, like starting out, like Nick Laporcio, he booked our first tour ever.
Yeah, the Link Up tour.
The
yeah,
Link Up tour with Idle Vibes. Shout out Idle Vibes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Nick Laporcio's doing, man. He just like put together like 10 shows up and down California.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was his doing. Some of them did all right. Some of them didn't do so hot. But I do remember though that we came back and we were like, we broke even.
Nice.
We weren't in the red.
Yeah, dude.
And so, yeah, I mean, that was just like, but there was also like, I mean, our band plus Idle Vibes in one RV.
Oh shit.
So that's probably like,
and like Idle Vibes is not a small band.
no, they were like a 7-piece band.
Yeah, dude.
So
That's a lot of
we had
dudes.
like 12, no, probably like 13 or 14 people in one RV. Maybe 14 is exaggerated, but it was a lot of people in one RV. We had people sleeping on the stove. Like it was
That's brutal, dude.
Yeah, man, that was the first ever tour. Like I remember one of the shows, one of the support bands like that we were gonna play with in I think it was Monterey. I don't know if you've ever been to Planet Gemini.
Yeah. That was the old Cali Roots after party place. Yeah.
Well, we had a show booked there, and forget whatever the local opening band or the local support band was. One, they were late. I guess the show didn't get promoted enough, or well, we ended up basically just playing to the bands and the bar owner. The bar owner bought us drinks and gave us $100 because he felt bad. And
that sucks.
so that was, so it's one of those things where you hear about it and you just got to go through it. And,
yeah.
But yeah. So that was the first tour ever.
What did you guys kind of like learn from that experience? Like your first tour, and like how did that kind of like shape things to come? You know, like.
Well, you kind of like. We had Ozzy on that tour too from We Should Smoke.
Yeah.
He helped us.
Was he like TMing? Like what was his role in that? I know he was like
he helped
promoting.
us promoting. Yeah. He helped us promoting. He got some sponsors and product. That was a funny story because he had like these cake pops. It's just like edible.
Yeah, like the weed
cake pops, bro. And I ate like. I mean, he was burnt at me for a while because, like, I ate a lot of these without, like, yeah. Shout out Ozzy. We should smoke. But, yeah, anyways. But, yeah, we learned how to, like, be better at, brand partnerships. And, like, if you do get a sponsor, you want to go above and beyond what they may expect.
Like, what is a brand sponsor looking for in a band? Like, so, like, when you're reaching out to a brand sponsor, how do you look... Like, how do you look appealing as a band to a sponsor?
Well, I mean, that all goes, I think, that kind of ties in with the whole, like, whether it's a brand looking at you or whether it's a label. That's why, like, that whole, like, being a polished product is just, like, in essence, that'll open up so many doors because it's, like, once people see what you're doing, you don't have to really talk or say much about it. Like people just see it and they get it, And so, because for me, it's like it's kind of weird for me to talk about like my things. Like I rather people see what I'm doing and hope that they understand what it is that we're doing rather than me like talk myself up or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when it comes to like if a brand approaches you with hey, we have a budget for you guys to do something that would help you guys out in whether it's like a merch or for a tour. You kind of learn different ways to kind of like put that money to use to where it's helping the sponsor as well as yourself too. You're not just like, oh, here's some money, thanks, and and like, you ghost them.
Yeah. So, like, what kind of sponsors were you guys working with at that time?
Man, this goes back.
Yeah, it's a long time ago.
I remember. I mean, like I remember some cannabis companies.
Yeah.
Cannabis companies were there. There was this one company called Green Horizon CBD. They helped us get to Hawaii for
Wow.
our first time.
Sick.
Yeah, like Soja had offered us like 3 or 4 shows out in Hawaii.
Wow.
Our first time out in Hawaii. I think it might have been our first time flying, to be honest. But we wouldn't have been able to do that without sponsors. And
Wow.
so, but yeah, that was like one of those things where it's like, okay, you're willing to help us, okay. And then on tour, we had their banner up by our merch table.
I see.
We
yeah.
had like, we just did everything you possibly can to go above and beyond to like, just show your appreciation and like, yeah.
Sick, man. Well, dude, I bet that's going to be like very helpful information for a lot of bands because, like you said, like it's one thing to like it's hard enough already to get an amazing opportunity like going to Hawaii, but then like the logistics is like a whole nother thing. Like I'm sure there's so many bands where like they get these opportunities, they get these calls, and then they're not able to actually do it because it's like they don't have the funding or like ability to do it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely some good information. And something else that stuck out. So you said like having a polished package and like the importance of that, and like it stands on its own and people can kind of like see it and recognize it or maybe like vibe with it or relate to it somehow. Like what would you say? Like I don't know if it's like something you guys consciously did or
I mean like I say polished, but looking back at it, we were still rough around the edges, but like I mean polished in the way like for our first few tours, we didn't really like have management. It was just on our own. So like when I mean like a polished, I mean like keep track of your numbers every time you play a show.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone comes up and asks like, hey, what are your numbers for these certain cities or certain markets, you're not just like I don't know, dude, like you know, which is like what some people, I mean, people don't think like that. So that's more so what, not even, I don't mean like polished as in like a look, but I mean more so like every aspect of what goes into this, like
I see,
knowing the numbers that you bring in certain cities.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's good to know too, especially when planning a tour. So, I guess another thing about Iya Terra, I've always wanted to ask you guys, like were you guys conscious of building your brand? And if so, like what was the brand that you guys were trying to establish for yourself?
Well, I know we liked reggae music. We all love reggae music.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We're also not from Jamaica. So trying to find our place in this world, like you kind of like this is just like out of my own perspective, but for me it was more so like trying to find like our pocket as to where we fit in this zeitgeist of like Americans playing reggae, and like I mean we just looked up to. And I remember when I first found out about the band Midnight, that kind of like opened, because you get into it from the American bands because that's just what you're exposed to just from being here, like the Sublimes, Revolutions, and so on. But then as you dig deeper, you find the Midnights, you find like the Peter Tosches and like Garnet Silk and all. The rabbit hole goes deep. Like I just got back from Rebel Salute and I'm still like what the heck, like so I don't know, something that I can like feel like I'm contributing, something that I can be proud of to add to the culture. For me, so I can't really speak for every member of the band, but when you're talking about like what goal did I have for the brand or the band, like to contribute something that is authentic to ourselves, but you're also contributing to the culture that is reggae.
Sure, yeah.
So.
Yeah, man. And like, how would you describe Iya Terra's sound?
Rock and reggae. I'd say it's rootsy, but I mean, like we started using a lot of influences from like our rock and like our metal days and stuff like adding distortion to the shadow pick.
Yeah.
Like,
I think of like Bless.
yeah, like those riffs. Like, I mean, like there's bands that had been doing like rock type leads or rock type riffs, like Pepper.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so much. It wasn't so metal, and like, or as I would say or whatever. But yeah, I mean that's kind of like where kind of like I was able to, or we. I mean, yeah, because I mean we just came from that world, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I see what these guys are doing, but I think we can do this way because we come from that world. So if anything, like I mean, for me, reggae is still something that I'm like, I learn something new every like day, every production that I'm doing. So yeah, when I was in this, starting to incorporate my own like 2 cents into the music that we're making, I would like, experiment with those like sounds from like the metal stuff.
Yeah.
With these like midnight type rhythms, because midnight's heavy.
Definitely.
And so is metal.
Yeah.
But then if you can find the common denominator in both of these heavy, yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it like that, where it's like, yeah, there's like a heavy quality to each of those kinds of music, and I think that's why Iya Terra works so well. Yeah, man.
You know.
Yeah,
like,
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, man. There's like a common denominator in like the heavy, the low end, and even in like the fast stuff. You know, like the catchy riffs.
Yeah.
With the head bobs and
because metal's all about like riffs and reggae's all about like bass lines,
and grooves and rhythms.
Yeah.
So if you can find a good common denominator, I think that's kind of like where we were like when we found like, okay, I think this is like something that, again, we're not the first to do distortion rock leads in reggae, but I don't think anyone was really doing it like how we saw it.
Yeah.
Coming from this world, you know, of heavy music. So
yeah, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, so with Iya Terra, like, was it always kind of like an upward trajectory, or were there ever like major dips and then like trials and shit? Like, cause like, I don't know, from an outside perspective, like watching you guys, like I just kind of kept seeing like the tours were like getting bigger and bigger, and like each album would get like more and more streams and stuff. Like, so it seemed to me like from an outside perspective, like the trajectory was just like up and up, you know? Yeah, what was that trajectory kind of like?
To me, that was just, we were working, bro. Like,
yeah.
I never really got to experience any like downtime, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
For 3-4 years, man, we were on the road for like 9 months out of the year, essentially. Wow. So like, to say if I ever felt like a down, like I was just at work. So like,
were you able to feel the ups too, or was it just like you were just like so focused on what you were doing that it's like you were not even really aware of like things moving up or down? You were just kind of like in your element.
I mean, like, no, I mean, we felt good when we got to like play Cali Roots for the first time. You know, that felt really special.
Yeah, dude.
And all these
other did the bowl, right? Or was that your first time?
No, the first one that we did was the Cali Roots stage when they still had like
sick.
The bands actually playing there. Now they have like acoustic sessions there, but yeah, that was our first one that we did, and like that was super cool, man. Like that's, I mean, you know, you get to those places that you kind of like hope to be at.
Yeah.
And it kind of like takes you back a little bit. But so I mean, to I guess answer your question, like the moments like that, I would, you know, I was like, dang, you know, because before we even like, I think we were even doing this might have been doing this during our metal days when we were going to Cali Roots, like just going, like, you know, like I remember Nate and Port. This was again before I was in the band, but like our group of friends in Vegas, and then Nate had a group of friends out in California, like Porch and our homie Brad. So it was like our first like gathering of our Vegas friends and our California friends at Cali Roots.
Sick.
And like they'd be jamming outside of the gates. Yeah. Like just like doing not busking, but just like playing outside of the gates. Like, after the whole event's done, like I'm pretty sure we car camped one of the nights or one of the weekends there, and we were just like those like hippie kids just like jamming
just
late at
jamming.
night, dude. And yeah, so it was
That's
really
so
cool, man,
crazy,
to
man.
like have at least that part be in our like story, you know.
Yeah,
So
man. Yeah, that's like, dude, like, yeah, like your album Full Circle, like that's definitely a full circle moment, dude, where you guys go from just like jamming outside the gate of Cali Roots to like eventually playing the bowl for like 10,000 people, like not to mention the millions of people on the live stream watching, like, yeah, dude, that's so epic, man. Was there ever a moment when you guys, like, you felt like, damn, like we've made it, you know?
I mean, yes and no. Like, and I don't want to sound like I'm not satisfied or grateful, but like I never really took time, and like it was one of these things that I heard Jimi Hendrix once say that he didn't like compliments because compliments like messes with like you almost become complacent. Like once you're complimented, it's almost like, okay, well, like, is that it? You know what I mean? Like, is that like, it's almost like you're drawing the finish line when you say you've made it. And I'm like,
yeah.
so that to me, like that always kind of like stuck with me, where I'm just like, I don't really ever want to say, because then I don't know if that fire is gonna like go out. If, you know what I mean? If I say that, but I mean, I've always like super grateful and appreciative for all the cool things that we did, for
like,
sure.
So I think that's a really interesting concept. Like you said, like, so making it is kind of like drawing a line in the sand, and like, it's like, okay, well, if I've made it, then like, you know, like what is left is there to do. And like, so if that's the case, like, and there is no really like concept of making it, like what kept you motivated, and like what were you working towards then, like in your own mind? Like, was there ever like a specific goal or like?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For me, like, I mean, like for like reggae is a world sound. It's world music.
Yeah.
And like the fact that we got to tour all over the States, awesome. I'm super grateful and appreciative to everyone that came out to every show. We eventually went to Canada, and then fast forward some years, we made it to France and Switzerland. But I mean, the world's such a big place, man. And then so like reggae, like how I've seen it from traveling, it's like if reggae's like cool in the US, everywhere else in the world, reggae is like king almost. You know, like
like the festivals in Europe, like
it's like soccer. Like, okay, maybe people watch soccer in the US, but people around the world are like soccer fanatics. Like fanatics, like they're painting their faces and like doing all this stuff, and I'm I want to experience that. There's still so much that I haven't experienced that, and to me, reggae is that common denominator that I have. Like, we would have never met a band like Dub Inc. from France had it not been for reggae music.
Yeah, true.
Like, I would never have met, you know, like the Mellow Mood guys in Italy had it not been for reggae. Like, reggae's brought me to some of the coolest places and coolest people ever. So, like, I owe a lot to reggae. So I feel like it is my duty to, like, see where else and what, you know, it can do and where else it can go.
Yeah, man. So like,
so I'm not complacent to say that, okay, because we've toured the States, like to say that, you know, we've made it, because reggae's so much, like, the world is such a big place. So,
there's like,
again, and I'm not putting the States down or any of the festivals here, but you know, I'm like, there's so much that I've still yet to see.
Yeah, dude. Like,
experience.
I think of like the reggae scene in Japan, like all the reggae Sunsplash.
I just found out there's a reggae scene in Japan.
Yeah, dude.
Oja Works. Shout out Oja Works.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like, yeah, that's a really good point. Like, so, yeah, just because you've kind of like,
because some people would be cool with that. Like, okay, we're cool. You know, we're touring California. We're touring, you know, all these like the festival circuit in the U.S. But like, I don't want to say we've been there and done that, because that sounds really like ungrateful and unappreciative.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like watching the same movie over and over again. Like I want to go see, what's in Spain. I want to go see Brazil. And that's why, like, when I had bands that I still look up to, like Soja, like they're doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that really kind of sparked my influence in wanting to see the rest of the world. I'm like, all right, cool. I see the US, but I want to see South America now.
Yeah, man.
And all these other places that it can take you to.
Yeah, dude, that's a great answer, man. Like, yeah, it's such a big world out there, and like using reggae as like the vessel to connect with all these different kinds of people and different cultures. It's like you were saying earlier about Jamaica, like these new perspectives that we aren't even aware of that exist, and there's so many things we can learn, and there's just so much to learn out there, and like having reggae be that like entryway into like making those connections is like, it's a pretty dope thing, man.
Yeah, so. Man. I mean, like, because once you feel like you've learned everything or heard, quote, made it, like, what else is there to know? If you feel like, you already know what you need, then that to me is kind of a dull life.
Hey.
I'm using the word dull.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, to me, I'm always going to be a student, and like I put myself in a place to where I don't know the language.
Yeah.
I know people because of the music that we like.
Yeah.
And that is for me enough to like be comfortable enough, like, all right, cool. I'm in a foreign land as a foreigner, but I know that I'm safe because, like this music brought us here. So, yeah.
Wow, man. Well, yeah, I definitely want to like come back to that when we start talking about some of your recent collaborations. But I guess just kind of like continuing on with Iya Terra, like, so after all the things you guys, like, I'm thinking about like what you said about, having that polished, not necessarily like image per se, but like management wise, or like having your numbers down and being ready when you have an opportunity presented, like being and like planning your tours out. Like what were some other like factors that contributed to your guys' success? Well,
I mean, we took a lot. I mean, everything that we made, we just invested it back into the thing, the business. Like, there's a few years where we weren't really getting paid from it. We all were working like odd jobs to do this. And I'm pretty sure like the first batch of EPs that they printed, they basically just gave them all away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those are like little lessons that you kind of like take on whenever you're starting another company or anything else. Like, it's like those the first like seed investments. You might not see a return from this batch of CDs, but make sure you give it to people and like that they're gonna appreciate it or like pass it on. And so things like that. Like, I think we were at Cali Roots handing out stickers or like doing that, and going to shows, meeting people, networking. Before we were on these stages, we try to sneak back. I'm not recommending anyone try to sneak backstage, but you know what I mean? Just trying to meet the people that are doing it. And I mean, like, and not in an unprofessional manner, but, just kind of like, because there's always this kind of like narrative where it's like, oh, I'm just waiting to be put on, or I'm just waiting. But like, you kind of just have to put yourself on. So
that's a great point.
Whatever that might mean, whatever that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. That's like you said, like reinvesting everything and like not necessarily like, you guys were kind of in it for the long game. Like, what were some things, like you said, CDs and stickers, like what were some other things that you guys were like investing in, and like that maybe some things that you invested in that you're like, that was like a bad idea, and then some things that were like, this really paid off, like let's do like more
our
of that.
van, I mean, the van was probably like one of our like really big first investments. We had a gig in Oregon that we played. They ended up paying us a decent amount to where we were able to buy this van from a church.
Wow.
So this van probably cost us maybe like $2 or $3 grand.
Nice.
And that van, Betty White, we named her. And she held us down, man, for like a few years. So
nice.
That $2 to $3 grand ended up, helping us make you know, it definitely, we got our money's worth.
Yeah, you go on tour all around the country and like build new fans and all that kind of stuff. Like, what were some of the things that you were like most proud of, or maybe some moments that were like some of the best moments from that whole experience?
In the topic of touring, like Fortunate Youth was the first band that took us on our first nationwide tour.
Nice.
So like, shout out Fortunate Youth.
Yeah, what a great crew, man. Such good people.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And that was a fun time. It was like, man, it was like 50 shows in 2 months.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Ridiculous. And yeah, that was our first, you know, all across the states. And
Yeah.
but they, you know, they put us on game. Like, they really showed us what you need to do, what it takes to like make this like a good thing. And yeah, we learned a lot from that tour for sure.
Nice.
So that was one of those that kind of is always going to stick with us. And like, yeah, man, super grateful to those guys for sure.
That's cool, man. Yeah, like it's good to have kind of like some mentors or people in the game to kind of like help you out and point you in the right direction. And like, speaking of that, so to kind of like wrap up about Iya Terra, like what advice would you have for other like up and coming bands today who are trying to get to where maybe Iya Terra like went to, you know, and like reach the heights that you guys did?
I would say like treat it like a job.
Yeah.
Because I'll even say, like, I'm guilty of saying, you know, I started doing music because I didn't want to, quote, have a job. But at the end of the day, if you want it to be your career, you have to treat it like it. So, because I think especially with the music industry, it's so easy. It's very easy to just get lost in the magic of it. You know, you're at a festival, oh, I'm going to drink a little too much, or I'm going to smoke a little too much, or oh, I woke up late. Oh, I'm waking up at like noon. I'm waking up at 1 p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, like hungover. Like, dude, like, I mean, that's stuff that I don't do anymore. Like,
yeah.
I can't afford that time. That time for me is just way too valuable for me to wake up hungover at 1 or 2 p.m.
Yeah.
On tour, I mean, it's different. Like on tour, you're going to sleep at 3 or 4 a.m. So you're waking up at these hours. So that being said, like when you're on the road, you have to like, I would go to a YMCA or a gym every stop that we went to.
Yeah.
Sauna. I mean,
Take care of yourself.
Started eating better. Yeah, man. It all goes a long way. So from treating your body, your mind as good as you can, but then also being aware of this band is a brand and it's a business, and you want a healthy business. You want a healthy self. So yeah, dude, like I love what you said about like, treating it like a job. And like what would your day-to-day life kind of look like? What were the things you'd be doing to like build your business and be productive, you know? Well, I mean, I'd still do this even with my own stuff. Like we'd get back from a tour and I'm pretty like lucky that I like this kind of caught up. Like COVID was in 2020, so I was probably doing this in maybe after, man, like 2019 or something. Basically, after we get back from tour, you have all this leftover merch that just sits in bins. After tour, I took it upon myself to just like count all our leftover merch, count it, write it down. Okay, this is what we have. Post on Instagram, hey guys, we have a clearance sale. And I think we didn't even have an online store, to be honest. We were just like we were just shipping stuff out. You post it on Instagram and like, you know, like get rid of it or like move it, you know. So it was just because I mean, so that was just one of those things that, I mean, I learned even that from just having leftover merch sitting there from, again, these previous bands that we were in Vegas. Just like once a band dissolves and you have all this merch in your garage, like, you know, so that kind of stuck with me. I'm like, that's not gonna happen with this. So like, I mean, it sucks because after you get home from tour, you just want to go to sleep and you know, but like, I mean, I might be crazy, but yeah, man, and I wouldn't be able to actually go to sleep after tour until that was done. Like that was like, because then, you know, you do that and then you see what you've made, what versus and what you didn't sell. And then, hey, we can make some. We have some money to pay out to everyone. You know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, like it's stuff like that. I mean, stuff that it's not like anyone ever told me to have to do it, but someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so. Yeah.
It's like truly making the most of everything you have. Like it's easy to come off tour and just be like, oh, we'll deal with all that later, and just let it sit there. But yeah, like, yeah, man, some good advice. And like, so kind of moving from Iya Terra, like into today's ventures, like when did you start your clothing brand Aspekt Apparel, and like how did that come about? Like it's funny that you were just talking about merch. I think it's a good like transition into this.
Well, I mean, I think it started in 2020. It started during COVID.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So again, I might be crazy for wanting to start a business during a time where it's like shutdown season, you know? But yeah, man, it kept my mind occupied from like not being on the road, because up until 2020, man, like we're just used to just being on the road. Like,
yeah,
from like the Fortunate Youth Tour was in 2017, and I mean 3 years later COVID hit. So yeah, from even 2016 probably, we were just on the road, man.
Yeah.
So now that I'm at home and you're just at home, like making music almost seems so redundant, you know, like the world was such in a dark place, and I'm like, why am I like, who am I making music for right now? You know, like everyone's so like worried about dying and like,
yeah, man.
So, yeah, I kind of like, I went into this rabbit hole on like art and what makes, I started more so with like what makes fine art, or like, you know, what makes art. And I started looking into like the Michelangelos and the Picassos and the Basquiat. Wow. And that kind of led me into Andy Warhol. Yeah. And I was just like tripped out by like knowing the progression of art, and from like, you know, the Renaissance days up until like the pop art stuff of Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
And then like I would talk to my tattoo artist about art because he's an artist.
Yeah.
And I've found that there's people that are art snobs.
Yeah.
Surprise. Yeah. But so like an example, like my tattoo artist, shout out Brad from Last Chance Tattoo in Vegas. He's the kind of guy that when I was talking to him about art, he's like, yeah, I like seeing like what's in the Vatican. Like if you want to see an image like an angel, I want to see an angel. Like the cubism stuff, or like, you know, like that, all the distortion and he's like that to me is like ugly, you know. He wants to see a pretty angel and a pretty like, wow, you know.
So to him, like art is like recreating something like really accurately and like with
it's just what he appreciates more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like each person has their thing that they enjoy about certain styles of painting. And for me, I was more like, I'm a fan of like the image and of what would be painted. But for me, what captivated me more was like the story of the artist, and knowing the year and time of when they drew this. Yeah. And and then like, you know, knowing the story of them as a human. Because that translates into why they paint the way they do.
Like, who are some artists that you really like, whose stories or art that like I know you mentioned some people right now, but like whose story do you like relate to a lot or just really like admire?
I mean, like the one that really like kind of like, it starts from the early stuff, and like once I got to Andy Warhol, like I think he was in the 60s or 70s. But I mean, like, even like Picasso was doing like these like single line dogs, or like he was drawing like a whole face with just one line. He would take a pencil and just with one line, never taking the pen off the paper, and then boom. You know? So like that was crazy because some people don't like that. Yeah. You know? And like I can see why. Like, it makes it look too easy. It's like no effort for him to just like, you know. And so that was one thing. So But then like whose story really, really got me was also too what like kind of like tripped me out about Picasso, dude, was like I didn't know he was like a current artist. I thought he was like from the 1800s. You know, he was like in the 70s and the 80s too.
Oh shoot, no, I didn't.
Yeah, Picasso was like in this century, or
Dang.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, he's not from like.
No, bro, he was like
yesteryear.
hanging out with like, I'm pretty sure he was hanging out with like Frank Sinatra and stuff, man.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
he was like around. Like I thought, I don't know why, for some reason I thought Picasso was like super like, you know.
Wow.
But yeah, so that was one thing. But then as I'm like going down the timeline of art, because I didn't have much else to do during COVID, but like just nerd out on art and artists. Once I got to Warhol. Do you know any Andy Warhol stuff?
He did like the Velvet Underground album, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
He did a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But so do you know his story though?
No.
Okay. So I'll try to like the cliff notes. He started like as a graphic designer doing advertisements for like Coca-Cola and like magazines. So that's where his job was before he became like a quote artist. But art, it was what he wanted to do. He wanted to be like considered like a renowned artist of his own. He considered the stuff like this as art. Like,
yeah, even like a Starbucks logo.
Like a logo. The logos, the Coca-Cola logo.
Yeah.
He considered that works of art because he came from that world.
Yeah.
Of advertising for, you know, making these images for these companies. So he considered that something that people weren't really touching on.
Yeah.
And like what made him really controversial was that he didn't paint anything. He printed stuff.
Wow.
So like have you heard of the Campbell's soup cans?
Yeah.
So that was something that he got a lot of heat for because when his friend let him display his soup cans. I think it's like a total of like 30 soup cans for the whole collection.
Yeah.
There was a grocery store across the street that said you can get soup cans for way cheaper here. You know what I mean? Like
so
the art gallery was across the street. The grocery store across the street had a sign that says you can get the soup cans for way cheaper
totally
here.
Burning him like
Bro, those soup cans are like $1 million each right now, or some crazy. Yeah. And it was just because he had the boldness to say, you know, this is art. This is like what I consider art.
Wow.
And like each stencil, the thing with him was, so he used the same stencil for every image. So like, but like the Marilyn Monroes, I don't know if you're familiar with the Marilyn Monroes. Same thing. He would use the same stencil for the Marilyns, put it on a blank canvas. Take it. Okay, that's one Marilyn. But as you're using the same stencil throughout all the different pieces, they end up getting a little distorted after each one.
And wouldn't he use like different colors? Like, so maybe it's like the same pattern, but he would like change the color scheme.
But that's what I'm saying is like he didn't really. It was just like the overuse of the same stencil made it different.
I see. Wow.
That's so you start from the first Marilyn and it's probably super clean. But then as you move down the line of all the Marilyns, they start to get a little more distorted, a little more faded, a little more like, you know what I mean? It's like that's what he appreciated in the collections that he would make was like that okay, yeah, it's maybe like the same but different, and that kind of like stuck with me, whereas it's like, because when you're making a song, it's you can take that kind of like that message with like any kind of art, whether you're making clothes, whether you're shooting content, making a song. Like, yeah, it's the same thing over, but every time you do it, it's gonna be a little different. You know what I mean? And like, yeah. So it was very inspiring to hear this guy's story, man.
Is that kind of like what inspired you to like start your own clothing brand? Like just this interest in art that you developed?
Yes, I would say so, a bit, because after Warhol moved on from canvas, he started using film, like movies. He started making these like silent films, these silent movies, bro. Dude was way ahead of his time, bro. Some people say he was an alien, to be honest. But like, dude, the movies he like the way that he saw a movie was like, it's like, okay, once cameras started coming into play, it's like, okay, a canvas is just 2-dimensional, but a movie can be 3-dimensional now because there's moving figures.
Yeah.
So he would just like have a camera and just have friends over at his house, and he was like in the Hollywood elite, I guess, so to say. He, after he became, you know, popular for his paintings, he had all these like famous actors and models as friends and singers.
Yeah.
And he would either have them over at his house or at his studio, and while they're smoking a cigarette on the couch, he would just be filming them just doing whatever it is that they're doing, fixing and making these like crazy silent movies that to him, like, I mean, to him maybe it had a story, but the point of it is like how that you see that picture that's hanging on the wall. It would just be like, okay, you see this couple walking on the street. It would just be like that. It would, for him, it would be like, if I would imagine if you were at his house, he would have these like silent movies just playing on his wall, like how we have just like 2-dimensional still pictures. He would have like just a silent movie, just like,
wow,
you know what I mean? So like it's pretty heady the way that he was thinking about this kind of stuff, man. And
wow, yeah, because a painting can be of anything, but also like by that same token, like a silent movie is just like a 3D painting, and it could be of whatever random thing you like. It doesn't even have to be anything. Yeah.
So yeah, man, like the way that this guy thought was kind of like pretty prolific to me.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, he coined the term 15 seconds of fame. That
really?
Yeah, that's his thing. He said he predicted at one point everyone's going to get their 15 seconds of fame, which kind of like leads down to the social media thing and the TikTok thing.
Yeah.
And like, dude was very like ahead of his time, man, when he was saying all these things.
Wow.
But yeah, man, it kind of just allowed me to like absorb some of that boldness into whatever it is I make, and maybe not think so much, just do it, do it, just, you know. Yeah, so that kind of led to the close, I suppose, in its own way, because after I did my Warhol rabbit hole thing, then I kind of was just like, okay, well, what makes like luxury clothes like, what is, you know what I mean, what makes someone pay $300 for a t-shirt, or like, you know, all this like yeah, like all these brands. I'm like, what, you know, what is it, you know? So I just went down that rabbit hole. That was a whole nother rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And
what conclusion did you come to? Like, that's actually a really interesting thought.
So each house, each collection, like the Versace or the Gucci's or the Louis Vuittons, they all have like their creative director as to who's head of like the collections that they're putting out.
Yeah.
And they put them out in seasons. They have a spring season, they have a winter collection, and they all have a theme to it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of
like a fashion show that like reflects that theme, right?
Yeah, but then it's like not even so much the clothes that tells you what it's about, but the creative director. You kind of have to like see who's the head of the house, of the collection, and like, I mean, if you care enough to like know what you're wearing, you'll know who the creative director is that's designing and putting out this collection. Because yes, it's Louis Vuitton and it's Gucci and it's, you know, but there's a person there like directing the theme of the collections that are going out.
Yeah. So it's like, I'm kind of like seeing a parallel almost between like you're talking about like you're like, for instance, there's people who like your tattoo artists who are like very kind of like traditional or like classical with like their taste in art. And then there's people who are like more experimental with art who kind of like see the value in the story or maybe like the statement it's making. And that's kind of like, you have these designer brands like Gucci and stuff where it's like a little more bold and like non-traditional, but like that maybe that's like what appeals to people, like the story of like who the designer is or like what the theme is of that season or whatever. And even some of those brands can be even considered a bit more conservative. Like once you go down that rabbit hole of fashion and see how crazy people really get with it, like Yeah.
Bro, like there's this dude, Rick Owens. Have you heard of Rick Owens?
No.
Dude, Rick Owens is wild, man. Like if you ever get a chance to just look at this
Is
dude.
he like a fashion guy? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, bro. This dude, the clothes that he makes is not for your average person. I mean, it can be if you wear it, and if someone like sees you wearing it, they're gonna be like, "Yo," like if they know Rick Owens, they're gonna basically this dude's like thing with clothes and how he like presents it. He's very like almost like he's in the Matrix, like in the
Whoa.
movie. Like he like the way that he puts on his fashion shows. Like you've seen fashion shows where they just walk the wrong way.
Yeah.
Like this dude doesn't just do that. Like you like when you go to a fashion show of Rick Owens, and I've never been to any fashion show, but like I've just seen videos because I'm fascinated by this dude in particular. Because yeah, it's almost like he's making clothes for aliens in a way. like it's very like post-apocalyptic, like industrial cyberhuman, like
Dang.
dude, it's like it's dark, I'll say that.
Wow.
It's dark, but to me, like that kind of intrigues me too. Like I from like liking metal music and like
Yeah.
it's like almost, I mean, I don't know, I wouldn't really say that it goes hand in hand with like death metal music, but the darkness of it. So yeah, like how some brands are very like light driven and you know want to look classy, Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive type stuff. I mean, Rick Owens is probably on those streets maybe, but this dude is like in a lane of his own.
Yeah.
Like, Rick Owens is like in a
out.
lane of his own, dude. Yeah, but it's like watching. To me, like, yeah, so once I went down that fashion rabbit, I started seeing the fashion brands as bands, like, to kind of put it in a way that people can understand, like, okay, each brand is its own band, and they all have their own, like, thing that they, like, stick to, that, you know, that's their ethos.
Yeah.
You know? And, yeah.
So, like, where does Aspekt fit into that? Like, what are like? I mean, are those like the brands that like that inspired you, that you kind of like see yourself in a similar lane with, or like what does Aspekt brand like mean to you, and like how are you trying to like portray that?
Well, I think that I can't really define it yet. Well, I will say this, that when I started the brand, it was easier to put the name on a shirt and just put it out than it is to just do what I actually want to do with. I mean, my thing is music.
Yeah.
Like music is what drives everything else I do. But the shirt was just like an easier way to just like put it out, especially during COVID. Like during COVID, music wasn't really like in people's focus. The clothes and the merch was something that helped sustain Iya Terra as well as myself through those times. Like people were so supportive, and like, you know, like we would do some like cool collections, and like, yeah, so that to me was just something to kind of get the name out. Aspekt Records didn't even like exist yet, but I know that I wanted, like, music is going to be the foundation of it.
Yeah.
But the clothes started first, if that makes sense. But where I see the brand fitting into, like, with other fashion things, it's like I can't really say where, because the music is going to take priority over the clothes. I mean, like, when I started the clothes, though, I did make sure that we used, like, because, okay, so I went from, like, you know, researching all these, like, luxury brands, seeing, okay, what makes, like, an Amiri $300 shirt a $300 shirt. So I started looking at the materials that he's using. He's using organic grown Supima cotton, which is, like, only grown in the U.S.
Wow.
It's not like, yeah. And so I'm like, okay. And so I found, okay, where do you get this stuff? And this is like where people normally get, like, blank shirts that are like $2 to $3 for a blank.
Yeah.
These blanks,
it's not made out of that.
These blanks are like $12, $13 a shirt.
Dang,
like just
yeah.
a blank. So I'm like, all right. So I mean, the sweatpants that I got are that. So like I
Wow.
made it a point to just like, okay, just gonna go
Like
in
quality, yeah.
go in on this, because I'm not gonna mass produce a bunch of designs and go into the fast fashion world, quotes, because the clothing industry can be very wasteful as well. So yeah, for me, I didn't really even care so much to like sell it as much as I cared to like just make something good that,
Yeah.
you know.
Wow.
So yeah, so for me, like whatever it is I make, it's gonna be like every aspect of it is gonna be carefully thought out and like with an intention and purpose. So yeah.
Yeah. What made you decide on the name Aspekt?
Well, it's like, I mean, the definition of it is like a particular feature of something. So it's like it's like taking into consideration like all the details, the smallest details.
Yeah.
You know, like everything that it is I make, whether it's music or in the clothes, everything is like intentional. It's not just like, you know, like
even down to what the clothes are made out of. Like you took the time to like make sure like every aspect of it is like quality and thought
like,
out.
And I do have one shirt that is not that material, and those are just like what do you call it? Just like a brand tee. And that's just because like I understand not everyone's gonna want to spend $45 for a t-shirt.
Sure, yeah.
That's, you know. So yeah, those are $25. The one that's the Aspekt Apparel brand, and that's just printed on like, you know, your everyday kind of. It's still nice. It's not the Supima cotton stuff though, which is like what I'm like super
Need
proud
that
of.
Supima, dude.
I got you, man. But yeah, but even like to be able to talk about that, like even on your platform, is pretty cool, because like I would not think that, you know, organic cotton is even a thing.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, it's like the food that you buy, the clothes that you wear, and it's super cool. I'm not encouraging everyone to just go and buy like organic clothing, but just to be aware and conscious of like, you know, when you go to a store and you pick out something, it's most likely probably going to end up in a landfill.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things where I'm like, I ended up getting, especially on tour, bro, I wear the same thing every night. Like we're almost to a point where I'm not even thinking about it. So like to me, I'm like, I'm only gonna make stuff that I know I'm gonna wear every day.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? And if I'm gonna wear it every day, I better like put every detail and intention into, you know, something that I love, that I personally love.
Wow.
Cause yeah, man. Sorry, I got lost there. I don't know where we were going with that.
No, I think that's great. And like, yeah, that's actually a great kind of transition too, because you were saying that like kind of like the heart and soul of the brand is like rooted in music. And now that your production company that you started with Porch, or like production team, I guess, that you started with Porch, like Aspekt Mafia and like Aspekt Records, like I see that that's kind of like maybe like the heart and soul of the brand, and maybe like that's kind of what you want the brand to be about, like the sound of your music or the sound of your productions. Yeah,
man. I mean, like when I see like fashion shows or the music that they put to the models walking the runway, I'm like, okay, I'm not making music with the intention of having a fashion show to it, but I'm like, what kind of ethos is this music like setting? What you know what I mean? Like the music sets the tone to the setting of anything, of a
definitely
of a cocktail party, of a fashion show, of a concert. So for me, like the music literally sets the tone. So I'm like, when I'm making music, I'm like thinking like, what's the ethos here what's the tone that we're setting here for the audience that might be into this, you know?
Yeah, man. Dude, that's a really interesting thought. So like with that being said, like how would you describe like the sound of like Aspekt Mafia Productions? Like what kind of qualities can people expect like when they listen to your music?
Oh man. That's we're gonna be all over the place.
Yeah.
In a sense, which because I mean, reggae is like life, but I love making hip hop too. Like I've worked with a few rappers, and Porch makes dubstep and he makes bass music.
Yeah.
I also love house music too. So
yeah.
Aspekt Mafia, man, is just like gonna be like this collective of the music that we make without really like, I mean, okay, yeah, maybe some like the Who God Bless tune with Melamood, that's a reggae tune. Okay,
yeah.
We'll put that in the reggae genre. But then you did a song with Porch, Pela Pela. I don't even know what you would put that in.
Yeah.
It's electronic for sure, but you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah. And I mean, it all goes hand in hand because I mean, at the end of the day, I think people aren't going to. People, I think what I've found is don't really like the music so much. It's like the same thing with clothes. They don't like the music so much if the person is not something that they can relate to.
Yeah.
So whether it is this crazy electronic song with a trumpet going off or it's this like trappy reggae type song,
yeah,
or anything else that might come out of our production and our studio, I think I think people will be able to vibe to it. So that's really what we're trying to do, is just create a vibe that doesn't, I mean, yeah, you can put it in the genres depending on like the song that it's in. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's like kind of like throwing on like a cool house party. Like,
yeah,
you're not just gonna play the same music at the house party the whole night.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Like, you have to have like some like variations and like, cause yeah.
Sick, man. Yeah, well said. Dude, you mentioned Who God Bless, and I definitely want to talk about that because I think that whole thing was really mind blowing to me. Like, you basically, for those who may have not heard that song yet, basically what Luis and Porch did is you guys went to Italy and basically got like all of this, like Italy's biggest reggae superstars, put them all together on this one like super epic track, and then shot a video. And yeah, it's doing really well, man. Like it's an awesome track. So like, how did you guys even get the idea to do that? And like, let alone like going to Italy and making that happen, like getting all those people together on one thing, like. Yeah, how did that all come together?
Well, we had made a link with them because they did a song with Nathan, or Nathan did a song with them. Porch linked that, I think. They're both Italian, Nick Laporcio.
Yeah.
The guys are from Italy, so they bonded. And so in that, they made a connection. But yeah, so the friendship was there, and then I was personally like, so I think they had asked for some beats, I believe, and so I sent them a beat pack with like a few different beats, and I mean, they were all within their own like group chat. They all said, "Yo, this is the one that we want to do."
Yeah.
So they let us know, and yeah,
the rest is history.
I mean, they went crazy with it, man. I had no idea how, and it was, yeah, man. I was like, I always wanted. Have you seen the Paolo Baldini dub files?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, shout out to Paolo Baldini, wicked producer from Italy.
Wow.
He has this tune, "Dancing in Babylon," which is like same concept, so to say, where it's like one rhythm, and he had like Senior Wilson, the Melamood guys, Forlock. He had this guy Andrew Jules. He had like 6 or 7 MCs on this track, and this came out probably like 10 years ago, and I was always a fan of this track. I'm like, dude, that'd be so cool to make something like that, especially with it being, because Melamood was in that one, and so I'm like, having Melamood and Forlock and like all the, we had so Melamood and Forlock that were in the dub files tune, so we had them on the Who God Bless, but then we got KG Man and we got Lion D, which are awesome like vocalists, MCs.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, I was inspired by this performance that they did, and try to like come up with a new take on what I could do in that kind of realm.
Yeah. Like, can we expect to see more like super tracks like this where it's just like a bunch of awesome artists like all coming together on like a huge collaboration?
Man, I mean, I would like to say yes.
Yeah.
I would like to say yes, but that was like it was definitely a good amount of work
Yeah, I bet.
to like, but I mean, I'm super happy with how it came out though.
Yeah, it's like an anthem, bro. Like that's
Thanks.
it's a sick one for sure. Do you have any like dream collabs of like artists that you like would really love to produce a track for or an album for or whatever?
I mean, there's tons.
Yeah.
I want to make something with someone in the UK. I think we're going to the UK in April.
Dang,
I
dude.
believe. Yeah. So, yeah, man, we're just scouting the globe, dude.
Yeah.
Looking for these gems that are, and yeah, because I mean, yeah, I'm down to work with like a lot of people, but as to like how we got the Mellow Mood and KG, Four-Lock, Lion D, these were all kind of like, it's kind of like the clothes, like you're picking the very specific materials to make this product, you know, and not to kind of just like subject them to just being materialized, but you know what I mean? Like everything is intentional in the thing. So
dude, that's so cool that like you're going all the way to the UK. Like it's like what you said earlier in the conversation of how like with Iya Terra, you guys like just started to kind of like break into the international world with like going to France and Switzerland, and you're like, man, like there's all this stuff out there. And now like with your own productions, like going to Italy, going twice to Jamaica, like going to the UK, like is that kind of like where you see your productions being more of like an international kind of thing? Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a big world, man, and I think you guys could add a lot to it, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I'm very fussy about going on vacation if I'm not doing something.
Yeah.
So it's like if I do end up going on a cool trip like that and I get to work, that just makes it all the better.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah.
Yeah, well, dude, I can't wait to see like where you take this. I'm sure I'm going to be seeing Aspekt Mafia on productions all around the globe, man.
Yeah.
So like I guess with that being said, are there any other like things that you're working on that you're excited about or that you want to like tell the audience about?
Yeah. I'm producing for an artist, Shakamon.
Yeah.
From Hawaii and Long Beach. But yeah, we have I think an EP. It's gonna come out probably this spring.
Sick.
He's got a song coming out February 16th. But yeah, that's something that I've been working on with him. But yeah, I'm always cooking, man.
Yeah.
As far as production stuff in the near future, yeah, you can expect some Shakamon stuff.
Sick, man.
Super wicked singer, vocalist.
Yeah, man.
And
yeah, Shaka's a talented guy, and I think you and him are gonna make a great team together, and I can't wait to hear the EP.
Yeah, man.
So, yeah, dude. Well, yeah, I think that'll wrap it up, man.
Right on. Well, I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, thanks again, Luis. Yeah, bro.
All right, that concludes today's interview. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Top Rankin Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and tune in next time for more interviews with your favorite artists and band members. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.